Hey everyone, welcome. Welcome to everyone joining us on the stream as well. So this is our first time streaming. So we'll just wait a few minutes while people join. Thanks for joining us. So I'm going to try and monitor the Facebook and the YouTube chat. So if anyone has any comments on Zoom that you would like to make, please just post them in the chat. If you want the Zoom link, you can just join the community Slack. So I have posted that on the announcements channel, but you can also check the community portal. The community portal has got the links to the relevant pages and what have you. So yeah, have a look there if you want to join us. And as I say, we'll try and also keep up with any comments that come in on Facebook and YouTube whilst we're streaming. I think I can also manage Twitch as well. Let me just get that fired up. Oh no, Twitch is going to take me a little while to get sorted. So yeah, thank you for joining us. It's great to be here. So I've been doing these project lead office hours for a while now. And the idea is that firstly, it's an opportunity to just talk through some things that might be of interest that you might not know about Mautic. So in this case, we're going to be talking about the new release cycle. And also what we're going to be talking about is whatever you want to talk about, basically. So you can join us on Zoom. You can come in and have a chat with me. We can discuss anything that you're worried about or concerned about, or if you have questions about something like a new release, or you'd like to know what's the status of something, then you're more than welcome to come join us on Zoom. So we start off with having our conversations about a particular topic. And today we're going to be doing the new release cycle. So some of you may have heard that we recently put in a new release cycle in Mautic. And previous to this, we didn't really have a clear way of telling people like when new major releases were coming, what was going to be happening in terms of going from one version to another. It really wasn't clear to people when that would happen. With more and more businesses using Mautic, it's become really important that there is that certainty. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, about what that actually looks like. So if we haven't met before, my name's Ruth Cheesley and my pronouns are she, her. I live in Ipswich in the UK, if my accent didn't give me away, and I'm project lead for Mautic, and I do that full time. You're always welcome to drop me an email at ruth.cheesley@mautic.org, and I do upload my slide decks on my speaking section of my website after the sessions. So if you do need to grab a link or you want to go back over something, you can find that there. I promise that QR code is not a link to a Rickroll. It's actually my LinkedIn profile. So if you want to connect on LinkedIn, you can zap that and it will take you straight there. I'm also on most social media platforms. So you can just search for my name and you'll find me on most social media platforms. So hello, if I haven't met you before, great to meet you. And thanks for joining us today. So what are we going to talk about? We'll have a short talk on exploring Mautic's new release strategy. And then that's just kind of me talking through something that might be of interest to you. And then we'll have an open floor where people can bring questions or things that you'd like to discuss. If there aren't any questions, then we can just close after the session, the short talk. So a few ground rules. All discussions abide by the code of conduct at all times, and that includes comments on the chat, and it includes comments on the videos after this is published. The open floor section, we consider that under the Chatham House rules. So you can use the information received, but not talk about the affiliation of the speakers or other participants. Please do hold your questions to the end and raise your hand or ask your questions in the chat. And no AI note takers. So we will be streaming this talk, the talk section of the talk. We will be having the opportunity for you to raise your hand or ask a question in the chat about the talk. But when we get to the end of the open floor, that's when the streaming stops and people can ask questions there directly to me, and that's not streamed. So if you want to join that, you need to be on the Zoom call with me. So let's start with the new release strategy. So what is it all about? So in the past, as I mentioned, we didn't really have clarity on when new releases were coming and what we were doing in terms of helping people transition from one release to another. We also didn't have any support for versions after the end of security support. So we used to have a period of what we called active support, which is where we're fixing bugs and releasing features. Then we would have a period of security support where we're only supporting security issues. So we don't fix any bugs, but then we would just stop. And that caused some problems for some people. So we also decided to switch to having a version of Mautic, which is called long-term support, which you know is going to be supported for a longer period of time, and the ability to pay for extended long-term support, which gives you an extra 1 to 2 years of ongoing security fixes, which is really essential if you're using Mautic in an environment where you need to ensure you're using supported software. For example, it's a requirement in things like GDPR that you're using supported software. And by the time we get to Mautic 8, we will be on a 24-month release cycle. So it's a big change for us. This is what it looks like in practice. So we have clearly defined release schedules. I will share in the show notes the link to the blog post where you can actually explore this in more detail. We have major release, which are developed over 9 months, so 3 quarters worth of development. And although it says alpha, beta, RC, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be released like quarter. It could be that it takes longer for the alpha to be released, just to flag that up, because sometimes there are big changes that are needed. Minor releases are done quarterly, including features, enhancements, and new bug fixes. So this is a major release would be like 7.0, and a minor release would be 7.1, for example. So you'll get a point release every 3 months, which includes new features and enhancements and bug fixes. And then a long-term support release. After 6.0, it will always be the 0.3 release. So 7.3, 8.3, 9.3. That will be the long-term support release. And that means once it goes into long-term support, no more features, only bug fixes for a period of time. And then we go into security support, where it's only security fixes for a period of time. And then we go into extended long-term support, and then we end of life. And the extended long-term support is purchasable in 1-year blocks, and that gives you back-ported security fixes for up to 2 years. So you buy 1 block for each year after the end of official security support. So the yellow boxes in this screenshot are security support. When that finishes, we no longer fix security issues in that release unless you have an ELTS subscription, in which case we backport any fixes that we fix in the later versions, but we also fix anything that is reported to us in that version. So you will get fixes for things that are reported to the security team in that version when you have an active ELTS subscription. So what does that look like in terms of going from long-term support? Well, one of the benefits of this system and the structure and the timing that we've worked out here is that you can go from the end of security support on a release straight to the next long-term support version. So when you have a long-term support version of software, it means that, as I mentioned earlier, there's no more features. So things are pretty stable. By that time, they've been released for a year, so that version is kind of getting into stability. And also you have that security support afterwards. So you can see here when we're on 5.2 LTS, so we have 3/4 of active support, so bug fixes and security fixes. Then we have 4/4 of security only. And then you could transition to 7.3 long-term support, which is released in Q3 of that year. And then when we get to the end of security support for 7.3, a year and a half later, you can transition straight to 8.3 long-term support. And when you get to the end of security support for 8.3, you can transition to 9.3 long-term support. So it enables us to make sure that when we get to the end of security support, you have the ability to go straight to a stable release. Something to explain about Mautic 6, which is why I did that big line straight from 5 to 7, you might have noticed that, is that Mautic 6 is intentionally a shorter bridging release with no features. So 6.0 is the only features-based release in that series. And then we will have bug fixes for 3/4 after long-term support. And then we will have a year of security support and 1 year of extended long-term support, and then it's end of life. And the reason for that is we need to quickly get up to Symfony 7 support so that we can have that long 4.5 years worth of support for Mautic 7. So we've been playing catch up really since the last 5 years of trying to catch up with Symfony releases. So that's why we have a shortened release for Mautic 6. So some people will update from 5 to 6. Some people will start straight away on 6. It's up to you, and it's up to you to decide your risk level, because obviously if you move to a version when it's just come out of the first release, in Mautic 6's case, then there are still going to be some bugs that haven't been fixed yet and what have you. So you may want to wait until 7.3 LTS before you update from 5, and we know that that's going to be the case for some people. So in terms of security releases, what this also does is gives us regularity, so that you know when security releases are coming. So we will always do, if we are doing a security release, i.e. we have security issues and we have fixes ready to be merged, so they've been tested and reviewed and everything like that, they will always happen in the middle month of the quarter. So in the last Monday of February, May, August, and November, there will be security fixes if there are fixes to be deployed. And that will be for all active versions that are in security support, and also any versions which have extended long-term support with fixes that have been backported. They'll all happen in that middle month, of February, May, August, or November. We also now have a Docker working group, which is really fantastic because Docker has been unmaintained for a really long time. And the Docker working group are going to take a similar approach. So the 2nd and the 4th Wednesdays of the month will, if there are Docker security fixes for the image, will be deployed when the build runs on a Wednesday. So they'll have automated builds that are just regularly building with whatever PRs have been merged. But on the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays, we'll be doing a manual build if there are security fixes that need to be deployed. When we have the normal security releases of Mautic, we'll also be doing a release of Docker. So when the releases are now going to be much more aligned. So when you're using Docker, you actually get a release pretty much the same day as when Mautic makes a release, whereas it has in the past been pretty slow in getting that sorted. So you might be thinking, well, why the changes? Like, why was this needed? Well, we want to be able to provide longer periods of support for each major release. And this sees us being able to provide up to 5 years support for each release. That's really, really important for businesses who are relying on Mautic now for their marketing automation and relying on having the ability to plan. We also wanted to be able to provide that extended support for people who, for whatever reason, can't actually upgrade. So they can't upgrade from the version that they're on to the next version quickly, i.e. by the end of the security support. And it might be that they want to have longer using that version before they have to invest in the migration. It might be that they've got lots of customization, lots of plugins, and they haven't actually got the capacity to update. Because of that, it takes them longer to do the update. It might be that they've got thousands and thousands of instances. And even if they started updating on day one of long-term support, by the time security support is over, they might not be there yet with all of those instances. The other thing with the extended long-term support, of course, practically speaking, we're an open source community. We need to have a revenue stream. This also gives us an additional revenue stream that helps to bring money into the community, which is going to fund a developer to be working full time. And part of that work is going to be on this backporting of security fixes and helping us to keep the security issues moving through the workflow. And I've mentioned this already, but having a clear and easy way to follow the schedule of what Mautic is doing and to be clearly, this is when long-term support is available for 6, this is when the security support ends, and this is when the long-term support is available for 7, really makes a big difference to a business so that they can plan much more carefully their resources and they can make sure that they are getting the most return on investment as they can from their Mautic instance. So those are the reasons. So far, it's been working pretty well. It is quite a lot of hard work for us, and we're still kind of ironing out some of the quirks, because whenever we do a release, we then have, say we do a release in 5, we then have to port those changes up to 6 before we can release 6. And then we have to port those changes up to 7 before we can release 7. So it is a lot more work for us at the moment, which is why some of the releases are coming out a few days after each other. But in the long term, we really think that it's going to make a big difference. It's going to make Mautic a lot more professional and a lot more easy for businesses to align with our release schedules. So that's the new release schedule in a nutshell, really. I hope that's helpful for people who have been joining the call or for people who are joining the stream. I haven't seen any questions, so if there are questions, feel free to add them in the chat if you're watching this later on Facebook or on YouTube, and I will come back and respond to them afterwards. If you have anything that you'd like to drop me an email about, or you have ideas for things you'd like to see talked about in the office hours, then by all means drop me an email. You can send me an email at ruth.cheesley@mautic.org, and I've just realized on the stream you won't be able to see the QR code because my head's in the way. That's a bit annoying. I'll figure out how to do that differently and maybe do green screen or something next time. So that's it from me. That's it from the live stream section. If you have any questions, I'm going to be hanging out in the Zoom chat for the next 45 minutes. So feel free to join me there and bring your questions. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about Mautic or about your use of Mautic or anything that we've discussed today. So yeah, please do come and join me. It'd be lovely to see you.